I know, and we all know, that you want to, as many of our viewers do, we need to cut down on these numbers. But in the meantime, it's that perennial question. They've got to go somewhere.
Yes, in fact, I've been dealing with a letter this morning from a lady in Linton-on-Ouse. She says, I am desperate, absolutely desperate, to maintain myself and my children's safety from people who've entered our country illegally. That's her opinion. Is there anything you can do, any power you can muster? I am begging. And that's an example of the way people feel in Linton-on-Ouse. It's a tiny little village. But equally, you just showed in Mark White's excellent package what was going on in Windsor. And here's the problem. The problem is that 90% of those that cross the English Channel are male. They are coming from cultures, in most cases, in which women aren't even treated as second-class citizens. And that leads to fear and terror, whether people are put in Linton-on-Ouse, on Eastbourne Seafront, in Windsor, or wherever it is. So I guess if the choice is, do we put people in hotels or do we put them in army camps? Well, army camps or RAF bases would save money. But either way, both of those solutions are just unacceptable to the vast majority of the public. And if these were genuine refugees, then why, when I was out with a GBNews film crew the other week, did we witness them throwing their iPhones into the English Channel? Why do they destroy all documentation? This is, and I'm sorry, I firmly believe these are illegal immigrants who should be returned.
What does need to be... What could the British government actually do to try and stop this? The guest we had on yesterday was saying, look, there need to be asylum applications made in other safe countries so that people aren't just tempted to try their luck and get into the UK. Would that work?
Well, something's got to happen because we're heading for 100,000 people this year. 100,000 more people will come this year, have to be housed, paid for, given dental care, medical care. And as I say, we haven't got a clue who they are. There are two options here. One is genuine offshore processing. That is an option. Or perhaps the even better option, and yes, it'll upset the French terribly, but is simply to take people straight back to France. That's the choice we face. There are no other solutions possible here. And Australia, of course, faced this exactly a decade ago when large numbers were coming from Indonesia across the ocean to Australia, bigger boats, more people per boat, but the same principle. And in the end, Tony Abbott, the Australian Prime Minister, literally towed the boats back to Indonesia and said that anybody that entered Australia illegally by boat would never be given settled refugee status. And short of being as tough as that, and yes, we'll be condemned from Brussels and the United Nations and everybody else, but short of that, this problem will go on and get worse and worse.
Partly why we exist as a channel, isn't it? That we can talk about these issues that other places don't talk about because they are contentious. But what would you say, because there will be people either watching or who see this on YouTube later on or Twitter or whatever, who say, it's just racist, we're being racist.
Well, what's it got to do with race? It's got nothing to do with race at all. It's about Brexit Britain, particularly in Brexit Britain, protecting the integrity of its borders. This is what people voted for. They voted to control both legal and illegal immigration. That is not happening. Our whole system is being abused. And, you know, if the countries people are coming from are in such terrible plight, well, why are these young men deserting the women and children and coming to work, in many cases, in the criminal trade in this country? None of it adds up. The system is being abused. And I tell you something, in the red wall seats where Boris Johnson got his majority, and I know those voters very well, they voted for me in Brexit Party and UKIP in years gone by, to those people, they see a total injustice that their own kids can't get on council house waiting lists, and yet we're currently housing 55,000 people who've crossed the English Channel in a boat or come in the back of a lorry. And this is, I mean, yes, there are questions about Partygate, there are questions about Boris's integrity, but this issue on its own could cost the Conservatives the next general election. And there is a huge debate going on in the country. There are some who want to close the debate down, and that's why they use the R word. But what is clear, and the fact that we're covering it on this channel, is the vast majority of people think this is an injustice.